What is going on, everyone? We are here with another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Today, got another super talented artist here. Excited to have him on. His new song just dropped on Friday. John Rose. John, how are you, man?
Man, I'm blessed. Excited to be on here.
No, exactly. I always just have to give a big shout out. I know I just said it before we kind of hopped on the interview, but it just means a lot to take time out of your day to just do this interview and just talk and share your story through music. Because at the end of the day, just hearing your story and hearing some of your music is what this is all about.
For sure.
So kind of before we get into the whole interview process and I start with all the questions, is just if you want to let the people know just a little bit about kind of just who you are. It doesn't even have to be music wise, just kind of like where you're at, what you're doing, and stuff like that.
Yeah, my name is John Rose, and I'm a artist from Dallas, Texas. Uh, what else? Yeah, that's that's really it.
No, I mean, it's just plain and simple. I mean, you have the passion for music. And I mean, I've been listening to a lot of your stuff, man. And it's crazy. You're super talented. And like I said, I mean, with the new song dropping, I'm so excited for you. I'm definitely a huge fan. And I know once people hear your story through music and hear some of your songs and stuff like that, I know people really just grab on and just be on the ride with you.
Yeah, that's one of the most important things to me is the stories, the lyrics, and I think at the end of the day, I want as many people, as many friends as I can have, and that's what I feel like I have in my community of people that support me for my music is we're just a bunch of people living life, and every day is a new story, and I just get to put my stories to music.
Exactly. No, and I mean, just at the end of the day, with the music business, it's always just really cool and unique to make those connections in the music business because I mean, I've done over 70 different artists and from all over the world, from the US, from to Canada, Ireland, Australia. Like I've been all over the place talking to people and it just opens so many different doors and you make so many new friends and stuff like that. So it's always a crazy cool experience.
For sure.
So, kind of getting into the first question, everyone knows I always start with the basic of basics, and it's just kind of where did music start for you? How did singing, playing instruments, like just how did everything come about for you? Because I know for me, for example, like I only started back in 2018, so that was about 5 years ago for me. But then some people start the day they were born, they start humming tunes and singing songs. But so how did everything come about for you music wise?
Yeah, man. I would say that I was about one of those kids that was humming tunes, 6 months old. No, I'm just messing. But for real, my whole family's been kind of in the music industry, from my grandparents to my uncles to my mom, and then and it went down to me. I love the whole DIY aspect, getting to build everything myself. You get to see my creative brain at work and my music and the music videos, the preview videos, everything. I'm doing it all. I'm working hands on with creative directors for photo shoots, all that good stuff. But how it started for me was, I loved Motown. I loved Temptations. I loved Smokey Robinson. And then, later on down the road, as I got older, probably around 4 or 5 years old, um, I was introduced to a lot of country music from my uncle because he started doing tours and stuff. He's a country singer, songwriter, but you know, music to me, I don't like the boxing, so I like being able to freely create, whether it's R&B, hip hop, country. Uh, I don't think that there's a certain lane that I have to stick to, and I'm not going to. But I would say when I started releasing music as an artist, uh, probably around 17 years old when I started doing my audio engineering and producing and songwriting and all that. But no, from a little kid, I started doing covers and just playing around, playing guitar and being like, oh my God, I sound like the Temptations when I'm singing My Girl. you know?
No, I totally get that, man. And it's just always cool to hear people's story through music because it's so unique. Whether it's like me, I only started 5 years ago with the songwriting and producing and stuff like that. But then some people, like I said, they just start right when they're born. They start humming tunes and nursery rhymes, and then it just keeps elevating from there. And I mean, like you said, like you were singing covers and stuff, and you're like, oh, I really sound like them. That's like me. But if I start singing, glass will start breaking and all that stuff. But I mean, but if I'm in the shower, if I'm riding in the car, like I'll be like listening to Luke Combs or something. I'll be like, oh, damn, I sound like Luke Combs today. But
Right, right.
then the person up beside me pulls up at the red light and they're like, yeah, roll up your window, buddy. And I'm like, all right, all right, all right. But
Oh,
obviously talking about music, there's a lot of like really inspiring people in music. I know for me, I grew up on country music. And but like I said, at the end of the day, with songwriting and stuff like that, like and like you just said, like not boxing yourself in is a really unique situation that you can put yourself in because it just opens so many doors for you because so many people just start and they're like, okay, I'm a country artist, like I'm only doing country and that's it. But it's like, hey, why don't you try and like get like a pop, like get a little R&B and soul in there, and like you can just open so many doors just by not boxing yourself in, and that's what I pride myself on too. And obviously I grew up on country music and I have a lot of country music inspirations because their storytelling and their songwriting aspect from years ago back in like the 90s and early 2000s, that's just really what drove me to start writing music is their songwriting and skills. So I look up to a lot of them. So kind of my next question is, who are some of your inspirations that you really kind of look up to in the music business when it comes to like writing and just producing your songs?
in the music industry, I would say people that I respect and work ethic wise, people like Quincy Jones, uh, of course, Michael Jackson, the entertainer he was, and producer, vocalist, just everything. How hands on he was, being able to watch his creative process, in documentary form,
Mhm.
really makes you eager to get in the studio and get a full band and get a orchestra and then put other artists together, and that type of stuff is what fires me up. And I would say, yeah, those two guys for sure. People like Babyface, he has him and LA Reid, uh people like that I look up to, that are like, when I'm in my 40s and 50s and 60s, and I have a huge record label that is, mine and everything else. Those are the guys that I'm like, man, I can't wait to. My thing is, I love being able to see other people feel the music and see what they create, and they're like, them get excited when they hear something, or they, whatever emotion you can portray in your music and then get the audience to feel that same way. There's no other way to describe it besides amazing.
No, exactly. And I totally get that. And that's going to kind of lead into the next question here is the whole creative process, which is the word you just mentioned a few minutes ago. And it's just because at the end of the day, kind of similar to you, is like when my songwriting and stuff like that is, if I can write a song that at the end of the day is going to touch someone else and can really affect someone else's life, like that's what really drives me to be a better songwriter. Because back in 2018, a lot of people know I lost my grandfather unexpectedly, and I wrote that song in about, I think it was about a year ago now. Good family friend of ours lost a friend, and he didn't know that I was even writing music and stuff like that. He'd never heard this song, so I shared it with him because he had just lost his father too, and he was bawling his eyes out after he heard it. And he's just like, man, listen, like if I had known that that song was out there, I would have had that playing as we were carrying his casket out. And like, as deep as that is, and like as sad as that is, that just hit me. And it's like, okay, I just wrote a song that just affected someone else's life, that just kind of helped them and just really made them stand there and have a realization moment for a minute. So the creative process is just always so unique. And kind of before I ask the question, I always have to shout them out now. I tell them every day, like I shout them out on every episode. But shout out to country music artist Garrett Walker, who was on the show. He said songwriting, it's like a puzzle. Whether you have 5,000 or not 5,000, geez, that's a big ass puzzle, but whether you have 500 to 1,000 pieces is the quote. You have them all laid out and scattered all over the place. And then eventually you start putting the border together. You start working on the middle and you start realizing where all these pieces go because they're all just mixed up on this board. And eventually you put all those pieces together, you put that final piece in, and then you have this masterpiece. You have this something that you can hang on the wall. This something that you can look at and cherish for the rest of your life and be like, hey, I did this. This is me. This is who I am. So the creative process is just really unique. So obviously you have a lot of songs out. You just had a song drop. What is your creative process like when it comes to writing all these songs and producing and stuff like that?
You know, I go in with the only intention to tell a story. You know, I don't want to overthink too much while I'm in the recording process, while I'm in the writing process. You know, I go in there and it's funny. I had this discussion with a peer the other day, and they were asking. I have another song that I'm working on right now that I it was a random idea, and the food happened to be in front of me, and I was like, you know what? I was like, tonight I'm eating Lucky Charms, and like literally wrote a song, you know, about that. But it's there's so many different ways to go about the creative process, but yeah, I don't overthink it, you know, go into it too much. It's just storytelling, man. Like, can you write a song about, you know, this glass with ice in it? You
Exactly.
know, there's so many people that can relate to that because, you know, of course, everybody drinks water. But, you know, you can write a story that, you know, you shared a glass of water with someone like your grandfather, and then it turns into a whole like moment that everybody goes, man, I wish I could just have one more glass of water with my grandpa. Like
Exactly.
that would, and that's how I go about it.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome because like that just to me, it's just sound like you're so open-minded and just have that creativity flowing through because I know I've talked to numerous artists and I've asked this question numerous times and like if they're looking at the glass, like they're just overthinking it sometimes and they're just trying to get way too much about the glass and the water. And like you said, like it's like you can talk about who you're having that glass with or where that glass came from. Like just you can open so many
Right.
doors and go through so
Where
many
was it?
different
Where
things.
was it made? Where was it manufactured? Like all that.
Exactly. And like it's just cool to me because like sometimes I don't even think about that, but like it just really puts a lot of things in perspective for me now too. So that's just a really I honestly have to say that's probably one of the better answers that I've had recently is just because you're so open-minded and that creativity is just flowing and that's what's cool and that's what I hear a lot in your music too.
Dude, thank you, man. That means a much.
No, of course. So kind of getting into the fourth question, it's always the hardest question, and I kind of always talk to artists about it before the interview starts. And I always say there's no wrong or right answer to this question because at the end of the day, people are still trying to shape who they are as an artist. Like I'm only 25 years old. I just started 5 years ago in songwriting and producing, and I have this interview series. So I'm still trying to really create my craft and figure out who I am. So the end of the day, I don't even know if I could ever answer this question because I'm still trying to figure out who I am. And you may not know too, but I kind of feel like you have those ideas of really who you are as an artist and what you want people to take away. So my question kind of is with like TikTok and Instagram and just all these other artists out there, whether they're down in Nashville or out in LA, just really trying to make a name for themselves. What makes you stand out from all these other artists? So what makes John Rose John Rose?
I think what makes me me is I'm just real. You know, I'm not gonna put anything out there that's fabricated or, you know, that makes people feel like I'm disingenuine. Because at the end of the day, you know, like we're all humans. You know, I'm not some uh, superhuman or whatever. You know, like I'm living, breathing. I put on the pants same way that other people do. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like what makes me me is just being genuine, man.
No, and that's awesome. That's just like the authenticity, and that's just like instant identity right there. Is you just kind of know who you want to be. You just want to be real with people. You want to connect with people, and that's I think that's what draws a lot of people in because I mean, obviously don't want to throw shade at anyone, but sometimes when these bigger name artists get up there and they start working with record labels and like big time producers, like I hate to say it, but sometimes the fame gets to their head and then they don't really connect with the audience as well as these independent artists do. And it's just, I think that's what really has driven a lot of independent artists to really spike up in ratings and stuff like that, and just to really crank up on the whole interaction part of things, because at the end of the day I think that's what people want to do. They just want to connect with other people and talk with other people and feel what they're feeling.
For sure. Yeah.
So kind of getting into the little last question before we listen to this little promo, because obviously I'm super excited for the song that's out, and it's, what are your goals as an artist? I mean, obviously you have these songs out, you just recently dropped a new song, and just what are your like short-term, long-term goals, and just what else can we expect from your music down the road?
Um, Long-term goals. I definitely want a USA tour. I want a you know, international tour. I want all that, all the fun stuff that comes along with that. Long term, like I said early in the interview, you know, I want my own record label. I want to help other talented artists, people that genuinely love music, for the connection, for the connectivity, whether you're EDM or your country or your hip hop or your whatever. You know, I think that it's important to have that aspect, even if you're making, you know, drill music or whatever music, you know, make sure that it's real, make sure that people feel it. You know, that's what Safe Water Sounds is all about. And that's my record label. Um, so that would be long term. Short term, you know, expect a lot more music. I love the interaction that I'm getting on my social medias right now with everybody, the comments, the likes, the direct messages, everything, you know, like that's what drives me. You know, it makes me feel like people are really around and we're working and you guys see it. And I love that. You know, it gives me energized. And I'm just like, even your DM, man, you know, like you reaching out. That's awesome. I love it.
Appreciate that. No, and
Yeah.
it's just, it's always crazy to me because people are like, "Oh, you're just so social and you just reach out to all these people." But it's like, I graduated high school back in 2015. It's gonna make me sound old now, but um, I when I was in high school, I was just a super shy kid, so like I never really like reached out and like talked to a lot of people. But like nowadays, like I think this whole the music thing, like songwriting, and then really doing these interviews during the pandemic in 2020 is just really shaped me into a whole new better person and just a more social person to do all this stuff. Because at the end of the day, like my goals at the time when I was just starting to write, I'm like, I don't know if people are gonna like this. Like I just started writing and like I haven't really shown a lot of people, but like I was always afraid of the criticism. But nowadays I'm like, if you tell me the song sucks, that's fine, because at the end of the day, I'm going to go and make that the best song I can make it. And that's what drives me at the end of the day, is just like you said, hearing those comments, hearing what people have to say, and just the interaction is just really, really powerful.
1,000%, man. Like I'm so grateful for my community and the people that are around me, and like they're helping me build what I'm building. You know, without them, I'd just be making music without anybody listening. You know.
No, exactly. So that kind of concludes all the questions I had for today. It's just really cool that you had time to share your story with me today. And obviously, getting to my favorite part of the interview is always hearing some stuff by you. And we're listening to the new song just dropped. Kind of before we get into that, if you want to just let the people know kind of about what that song really is about, how it kind of came about and stuff like that. And after you're done talking about that, if you want to let people know where we can kind of find you on social medias too.
Yeah. So the song is called "Crushed Grapes," and I wrote it upon moving to a new city. And you know, I found myself drinking wine, and you know, I usually drink wine, but in this chance or this stance, you know, I drank the whole bottle. So I was like, oh wow. And literally it was just relating things to moments, you know, moving to a new city, there's a whole new life. You know, I didn't have my family and friends around me. I felt really alone. And, you know, when you're alone, you start to reminisce, you start to think about past stuff. And then you might reach out to an ex, and then you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh God, why did I do that? You know? So it was for sure just all those bottled up emotions, no pun intended, but bottled up emotions, where I was like, wow. And when I drank that, I had a glass of wine and I was just like going, and I freestyled it, but it was the moments of just like, I'm new to town, my new home's a bottle. Like that's one of the lines, but it felt like that when I moved there and I had nobody, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have a glass to relax, and then a glass turned into another glass, and then I was like, wow, I'm like, I really gotta check where I'm at, and that's where Crushed Grapes was born. And it's a powerful song. There's soft melodies towards the end. There's like, very aggressive vocal tones, and I just feel like it's one of my best bodies of work for sure.
No, and that's awesome, man, because like I said, I mean, whether it's that song, I mean, I know I'm a fan of Wait for Me, and definitely Soar is one of my favorite ones for sure.
Yeah,
And I love your music, man. You're just a super, super talented artist, singer, songwriter. And like I said, I just can't wait for more things to come. I know this song just dropped, but waiting for more things too. Is just I'm on the ride with you. I know my fans will be too, and I know people that follow you just to really hear your story a little more is just going to drive people to really connect with you and just to be on the journey with you, man.
for sure. Thank you so much.
No, of course. Kind of before we just take a quick look at that, is where can we find you on social medias?
So you can find me on Instagram at John Rose Sounds, Sounds. And then you can find me on TikTok, the same username, John Rose Sounds. And then on Facebook at the John Rose. And then on Twitter at John Rose Sounds.
Perfect. I mean, everyone definitely go check out John Rose. Super, super talented. Y'all just heard his story here, and I'm excited, man. I Crushed Grapes. I just can't wait to hear that, and that's what we're gonna take a little listen to now. And kind of before we go with that, you all know the drill is every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Got new music, new artists, and we're just on the ride. We're on the journey. So, kind of without further ado, we're gonna take a little quick look at a promo video that John sent us over for Crushed Grapes, and let's take a listen to that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I've been out here drinking. I've been drinking way too much. I've been drinking wine cause it reminds me of your touch. Strong and cold, slowly depleting. Aged and bold, red like I'm bleeding. I've been out here drinking. I've been drinking way too much. I tried liquor mixed with bitters like these grapes. My heart is crushed, 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 crushed.